Hi, this is Karl Morgan. I'm here to read a brief snippet from my new book, Karl Prescott and the Riddle of Satan's Cube. This takes place during a dream while Karl is lost in limbo, if you can believe that. Let's begin. No sleeping in class, Mr. Prescott, a woman's voice exclaimed. Karl sat up. He was sitting in a classroom at a desk in the back row. The other students were angels, humans, and a few odd beings unlike any he had ever seen. I'm sorry, Dean Whitehall, I didn't mean to fall asleep. Clarice Whitehall sat on the edge of her desk. For today's lesson, I thought we'd discuss the Angeline saber. Who'd like to tell us what they know about that weapon? Karl heard a grunt from the person on his right, so he glanced over. The other student looked exactly like himself, except for the red skin and two short horns that protruded from his head. The demon noticed Karl and said, "What a waste of time, right, Lou?" "Huh?" was all Karl could say. "No side conversations, Stanley," Whitehall demanded. The demon replied, "I apologize, Dean, but may I remind you that my name is Satan, not Stanley?" Whitehall rolled her eyes but did not reply. Any volunteers to discuss today's topic? Several angels raised their hands. She pointed at a lanky boy in the front row. "Zed, thank you for volunteering. Please come up in front and show the class." Zed stood, walked toward the blackboard, and turned to face the class. He was quite tall and thin, and his hands seemed too big for his body. "Good morning, everybody." He blushed and turned to the teacher. "You'll do fine, son. Most everyone here needs to hear this." The demon leaned toward Karl. "Don't listen to this garbage. It's not for us." Karl ignored him. Zed cleared his throat and looked down. He took a few deep breaths and finally looked up. He waved weakly at Karl. "Hi, old friend." "Zed, focus," Whitehall said. He nodded. "Yes, ma'am. The Angeline saber is the favored weapon of angels and those touched by God. Instead of metal, the blade is made from the grace of God." Satan snickered. "That's quite enough, Stanley," Whitehall interjected. "It's Satan, ma'am." She ignored his comment. "Please continue, Zed." Zed rubbed his sweaty palms against his jeans. Then he extended his right hand with the palm open. "Your desire or need for protection will create the weapon, beginning with the hilt." As he spoke, a leather-wrapped hilt materialized in his hand. The blade can take many forms, although a saber is traditional. A gleaming silver blade began to extend from the hilt. It slowly grew until the thin, slightly curved saber blade was complete. For me personally, I prefer two sabers. A second weapon grew in his left hand. "Excellent job, Zed," Whitehall noted. "Please leave the two weapons on my desk and take your seat." The boy did as he was told. The students around him congratulated him on a job well done. "Can anyone else tell the class other attributes of the Angeline saber that make them unique?" A female angel raised her hand. Okay, Connie, come up and address the class." The angel Constance moved to the front of the class and waved at her classmates. She noticed Karl in the back row. "Hi, Karl, thanks again for saving us." Karl blushed and nodded. "The swords, Connie." "Yes, Dean, I was as happy to see him, as are we all, Connie," Whitehall replied. Connie smiled. "Okay, the Angeline saber. First, given their divine nature, most beings cannot lift one. As Ed noted, only angels and those touched by God can do so. May I wield one of the swords?" "Of course, Connie." Connie took the nearest sword and put the point against the floor. Here at the end of the hilt, there is generally a pommel which the user can choose. It might be a gemstone or any other memento. The pommel adds its own power to that of the weapon. Finally, between the hilt and the blade, each user can have a personal guard. A silver filigreed shield formed over the end of the hilt. "This is my personal preference." She set the blade back onto the desk and then returned to her seat. Whitehall stood. "Okay, any questions about today's subject?" She shook her head. "And it would seem Mr. Prescott has drifted off again. Stanley, please wake him up." "My name is Satan!"